Hey everybody, welcome to another video review. It's been a long time, over 6 months. I've always been wanting to do some more reviews and just never had the time. And I think part of the reason is because of this guy, right here. So I wanted to get back into uploading a few more interesting videos, interesting reviews. And I decided to take some time, try to get the ball rolling. And I wanted to at least talk about this time the Halo Infinite. I guess, what's the best word? The Halo Infinite Limited Collection and the story behind that for the Xbox Series X. And I'm debating how I should do it, but kind of per what I normally do, I probably will just stitch all of this together into like a really big, long review. So this is sort of the first part. So this, for those of you who may not know what this is the Xbox Series X, but the Halo Infinite Limited Edition. This was announced last year at one of the Microsoft events. And as usual with video game systems recently, the pre-order sold out essentially instantly, and a lot of scalpers managed to get their hands on it. Even today, I would guess the majority of the consoles are being scalped or in the hands of scalpers. So this is like a very difficult system to get. In point of fact, before this was released, I really wasn't planning on getting an Xbox Series X or even Series S at all. I had been a little bit out of the scene for a while. I hadn't really played too many video games, and then the pandemic happened, so there was a lot of extra time, and I wound up kind of getting back into video games. But I have every game system. For the past couple of years, I'm an adult. And so for me, it wasn't a big deal. I had bought the PlayStation 4, and then I got the initial Xbox One when that was released. And then I kind of got out of the video game scene, and I didn't buy the PS4 Pro or the One X, for instance, which is, I guess, the souped up version of those. So when the new generation came along, I, of course, began to just look into it. I was curious to see what was there, what was worth it. The PS5, I was kind of disappointed with both the PS5 and the Series X in the sense that there didn't seem to be very compelling exclusives. For somebody who, like me, who owns all of the different game systems, I really, at least from my perspective, and again, it's probably from the perspective of somebody who just buys all the different systems, I'm looking for exclusives. I'm looking for games that like uniquely utilize the advantages of a particular system, and to create games that specifically take advantage of that. That's what I'm interested in, and that's kind of where I'm coming at in terms of being a video game player and a fan. And I, of course, understand that from a financial point of view, that's not good for the companies. Their perspective is to make a game that's multi-platform because it reaches the widest audience, which means that you can sell the most copies. But in doing that, you inevitably then begin to run into the problem of the lowest common denominator, where you're going to be somewhat held back by the limitations of the kind of the weakest system. And so when I looked into this new generation, it seemed a bit disappointing that there didn't seem to be any true killer app for either of these systems. And for the Xbox, particularly the fact that Halo Infinite was delayed over a year meant that for me, I didn't feel like it was worth it to even go and get the Xbox Series X, especially when I began to do some more research. And it became pretty evident to me that Microsoft was moving toward a Game Pass, gaming as a service streaming model, sort of like the video game equivalent of Disney Plus or Netflix, which I think there are some problems with that particular model, at least from my point of view personally. I don't really think that that works particularly well with games. and I didn't really like that, philosophy. And so again, there didn't appear to be any real games for the Xbox Series X. No exclusives that interested me, at least, and a situation where it seemed like the Xbox console was becoming more and more indistinguishable from simply a PC, and all of the Microsoft games, in fact, via Game Pass, could just as easily now be played on a PC. So I wasn't going to buy Xbox Series X, but then when the Halo Special Edition came out, like a sucker, I fell for it because it looked so beautiful and so amazing, and it kind of changed my mind. I was thinking, well, maybe I will get it, just because it's such a beautiful system. And I was one of the owners of the original Halo limited edition Xbox. I still own that, actually, 20 years later. And so I think it did kind of play on my nostalgia. And so for that reason, I tried to get it. And I figured out very rapidly that you're not going to win against the online bots. And so I finally decided to just go on eBay and get one. I actually bought one pretty early on, and I got a little bit lucky, and actually I bought one for $800, which was a very good price. But the person that I bought it from was a new seller on eBay, and eBay didn't like that. And in order for the deal to be, approved, they wouldn't allow him to actually collect the money until there was proof that the system had shipped. And of course, I had bought a pre-order of the system, and it just got messy. He was trying to essentially use the money that he was making off of me to put it onto his credit card, and then use that credit card to buy the system. So it got pretty difficult, because of security issues, and both PayPal and eBay basically prevented him from actually finishing the deal. He had to refund me the money, and it got to the point where the only way I was going to be able to complete the transaction was to take a leap of faith and just trust him, and essentially essentially gift him $800 cash, like through PayPal friends and family. And this was done over, I think, 6 weeks earlier than when the system was going to be released. So, I had talked to him over the phone, and at that point, $800 I felt was actually a not unreasonable markup considering everything. I felt like the system was going to get more and more expensive. And so I did actually decide to take that leap of faith and trust him. And I actually gave him the $800 and hoped that he wasn't going to rip me off. And as it turned out, my faith in humanity was rewarded, because on the day of the release, he did in fact get it, and he did in fact ship it to me. It was $800 shipped from, I think, the Midwest. I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing that. I think I probably got lucky, but it worked out for me. And so I wanted to kind of start by doing just a review of the actual system itself, and take you inside the box. There's a lot of these out on YouTube, but I figured I would add my particular perspective to it. This came in just a original box from GameStop, and you can see that there is a lot of just sort of wear and tear and just sort of damage. So they don't mean this to be like a collector's item per se, but so they didn't wrap it with all the different buffers and stuff like that. So you're gonna see wrinkles, trauma, stuff like that. But it comes in a sleeve like this, and then on the back you kind of have this nice picture of Master Chief. Okay, and here's some of the baseline information. So this is one side of it, and we'll turn this around. You can see some of the other information here. This is the top of the actual Xbox Series X, and we'll get a close-up of that a little bit later. It's actually painted a little bit differently than the normal version. And then if we go over here, you can see that this is actually what it looks like. It has not only a limited edition skin here, but also a limited edition controller. It comes with a 1 terabyte SSD. Here he is right over here. And then it also comes with Halo Infinite. This was actually a point of some confusion. It's not it wasn't very clear actually whether it came with a game or not. You would think that this would be something that would be very easy to figure out, but that's not the case. I actually had to do a little bit of digging, and actually finally I did confirm that this does come with a game, which essentially then makes this a incredible value, because its retail price, I think, is like $550 in tax in the United States, which is incredible because the base Xbox Series X is $500, and the game is I think it's $60. So again, I might be wrong with the details, but you would normally think that they would charge you an extra premium for this special limited edition, but they haven't. In point of fact, the extra money, whether it's $550 or $560, is because it includes a copy of Halo Infinite already pre-downloaded to the system. So as far as that was concerned, this was a nice, pleasant surprise. It's a very, very good deal. So now if we take the sleeve off, and it's a little bit tricky, I'm gonna do it with one hand. So you can see this is the sleeve. We're gonna take the sleeve off. And when you take the sleeve off, this is the box underlying it. You can see that there is some what we call bruising right over here. There's a lot of homages. I think 2001 is the release of the original Halo. This is a 20th anniversary edition. So this is like a really cool print of Master Chief, beautifully done. Again, Halo Infinite, 20 years. You have kind of the starry sky, and this is sort of like the, this is sort of the same as the special skin of the Xbox Series X itself. If you look on top, right over here, this is what it looks like from the top side. And then let's turn around here. This is another really nice picture of him in a different pose. Again, you see Halo Infinite 20 years anniversary. Very nice. Here it says 2021, and then 2001 up here in the corners. By the way, this is sealed by, I think, no less than 12 extremely sticky pieces of tape. And I guess I was, maybe I'm one of the few guys who was anal enough. I actually slowly peeled it off with my fingernails. It took literally forever. Most people just take a knife or a razor blade and just slit it. But I actually peeled off the stickers manually one by one. That took a good, no exaggeration, 20 minutes just to do it without ripping all of the, the paint or the cardboard off. So again, very, very classy, beautiful design. Let's take a look at the side. So on one end, just again, Halo Infinite. This is going to mimic the actual console itself. And then over here, you have the actual little message. It's in English and I believe French and Spanish as well. So I'll let you read it yourself, but it's not too long. It just says, we crafted this limited edition console to celebrate you, our fans. This monolith of power and performance serves as an expression of our gratitude to all who've inspired and joined us in exploring this spectacular universe. Halo Infinite is our grandest adventure yet, and we invite you to discover its mysteries with us. The 343 team. And then let me see what it looks like if I just sort of flip it to the back. Here are just specifications, a lot of mumbo jumbo. So at this point, I'm going to check this thing out. So I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to open it up and I'll show you the inside of it. So I'll see you after the cut. Okay guys, welcome back. So I kind of prepared things. You actually flip it all the way so you're seeing the bottom, and then it actually opens up like a hinge, just like this. And then it'll go all the way back here, and this is the top foam, which actually should belong like that technically. So this is where it's supposed to go here, but it just fell forward. And then this is sort of the interior of the system. One thing I have to give Microsoft brownie points on is that they really take a lot of care wrapping up their consoles. I'm sure that the regular Xbox Series X is the same way, just without the special version. But it just feels very classy, very well done. I do prefer that compared to sort of the cheap packaging of the PlayStation 5, which, definitely they're still using, like egg cartons, and it's just very, how can I say this, kind of like almost like low rent. Whereas here, you do feel a little bit more of that quality, that attention to detail, that care, right? So basically, when you open it, the console is in here, and you take this thing out, and you can see 117, Master Chief's number, and then you actually open it up like this. So this thing here actually, inserts into this groove here. So you open it up, and then the console's in here. And the console, if you can believe it, is actually wrapped separately in this sort of, very thick tissue paper. So you have this going on right here, and then after you unwrap it, the console itself is wrapped in this. And this is not just like tissue paper. It feels a little bit more solid than that. It's taped very nicely. You can see the tape here, and it's got that kind of starry sky appearance. So again, it's just like this thing wrapped around the console in this thing. I'm going to take this aside, and then you see the inside of it. You can see the soft foam. This is just, again, much nicer packaging. Now, some out there may feel like, oh, who cares? It's the game system that counts. But these are little tiny touches that kind of show you, again, that Microsoft does care a bit about these things that Sony doesn't really. And they're willing to spend that extra money, right? So those little details, as someone who, if you follow my channel, you know that I collect statues. These are little things that I do appreciate, okay, just to say that. So here's the console, you take it out. And then here, they just give you this kind of little information that tells you that, yeah, this comes with the game. And then it gives you sort of, very basic instructions on how to get started. Nothing too fancy. As you can see, the pictures in here are actually of the base Xbox Series X, not the special edition. In the back here, an advertisement for Game Pass Ultimate, obviously. So this is sort of nestled in here. And then if you open this up, right here is where you have the power cord, the HDMI cable, as well as the controller nestled in here. And this is basically their HDMI cable. I already bought my own 2.1 cables that's longer from Amazon and Belkin, but it's important for those of you who may not understand this. But if you want to get the full options or the full technology that the Series X or PlayStation 5 offers, then you need to get the right cables. And this is the HDMI. Again, for 2.1, this is a high capacity, and it actually kind of tells you that's an ultra certified, ultra high speed cable. So if you're going to get your own, you need that. But if you don't have it, always use the one that comes with the system, because that's going to allow you to get the 4K 120 Hertz or the Dolby Vision stuff. So this is how it comes packaged in there. And then you just put this back like that, and that's the inside, okay? And then what you do is you bring it in and you close it. So we're going to get this out of the way so that we can get to the actual meat of the review, which is the console itself. So I'm going to gently move this forward. I have it on a turntable. So here it is, its glory, So I'll start off by just sort of taking a look here at the special edition controller. It's quite beautiful. So this is essentially an Xbox Series X controller, but I just kind of wanted to show you the special skins that they did to again mark the anniversary edition. So you can see the highlights here. You know, it's very, very comfortable with the hand. I actually used this controller I played probably a good 60 some, yeah, I would say, how long? Close to 80 hours, 60 to 80 hours on this controller, beating Halo Infinite on all the difficulty levels. So if you flip the back, you can actually see the celebrating 20 years Xbox. So this is a very pretty controller, actually. So there you go, beautiful. And then, of course, this is the actual Series X limited edition. As you can see, the skin here is meant to mimic the visor of Master Chief. And this is his visor. You're looking out into space. The Xbox logo, and you can see the bottom part. This is the disk drive. This is the power button and one of the USB ports. And you can see it wraps all the way around. You can tell here is if you want to put the Series X flat, you have the little rubber legs right over here. In the back here again, celebrating 20 years. These are all of the ports. Same as with the regular Series X, you can have the power supply, this expansion, more USB ports, and then the HDMI out cable. So there you have it. Here you see the Xbox logo as well. So just move it back. This whole thing actually has quite a bit of weight to it. And then if you look up top, rather than the green paint, you can see that it's actually blue in color as well. So you can see the little bits of starry sky over here. So they actually painted all of that. They added that little bit of detail. So, you know, one of the criticisms of the original Xbox Series X, which is the black version, is that it just basically looks like a fridge, like just this basically a box. And I kind of agree with it in the sense that, you know, the original, the original Series X just seems to have so little imagination. Whether you love it or hate it, you have to admit that the PlayStation 5 with their casing and the, you know, the sort of the plastic fluting and the exterior, at least they try to give it a little bit of that futuristic curve, that futuristic look. They tried, right? Whereas here, I felt like it was just a little bit lazy, this rectangle box, as if when they designed it, they just, you know, really didn't spend any time at all trying to come up with something in terms of design, right, to make it prettier. But I think with this new skin, it does look very, very nice. And it just shows you what even a little bit of imagination can do, putting in, again, this kind of design, the patterning, to give you, you know, to give you the sensation or the feeling that, you know, you're Master Chief looking out. It's not like, you know, earth-shattering, but just that little extra effort made the base design of the Series X so much more appealing, right? And so I feel like that shows you again that there's a little bit of this opportunity lost for the original non-limited edition. By the way, I don't have blacklight, and I don't really want to recreate what you would need to get it. You have to get the blacklight, turn off the lights. But if you shine on it, you'll find, like, you know, I think a logo on there, both on the controller as well as the console, probably in this area. You can kind of actually even see the outlines of this, which is like really cool, actually. You can actually, from the right angle, you can actually see, you know, again, the visor effect right here. So that's really nice. And again, I don't know whether it's the front or whether it's the back. I think it's the front. if you shine the black light, there'll be like a little, Easter egg there as well. So definitely, in my opinion, this is like a great value. I mean, I'm not unhappy that I paid $800 for it myself. I did get it 800 shipped, all inclusive. If I had bought it originally from GameStop, it probably would have gone up to anywhere in the low 600s when you factor in shipping and tax. So a $200 premium, and of course I didn't have to wage war against the bots or wait outside with a sleeping bag outside Best Buy at 2 in the morning. It's sad that it's come to this, but I'm glad that I got it, and so even for 800, I think this is something that I don't have any regrets over. But at its base price of $550 or even $560 and tax and change, I mean, that's a no-brainer. It's an amazing console, an amazing skin, an amazing limited edition to get. And I don't know how many of these they made. The stupid thing right now is that because of the pandemic, we have a chip shortage. And so even regular non-limited edition Xbox Series X's are kind of hard to come by. They just are not able to make as many of them as they want to. So you can imagine making like a Halo Infinite limited edition version is even more rare. I don't really know how many they made. And I don't think, as far as I know, I don't think they're just making it again, like infinitely, if you'll pardon the pun. I think they will stop manufacturing at a certain point just because, number one, they can't even manufacture normal Xbox Series X's. There's a limit to how much they can do even with that. And so the limited edition, I think they're just going to stop making it, which will mean that those of you who own these, this is probably going to become a pretty desirable collector's edition in the future, in my opinion. And right now, when I'm making this video, when I upload it, it's going to be like mid to late February of 2022. And I haven't really heard of many drops for the past 3 months or so. So there's not a lot of these out there. They're petering out. And so at that point, I think the prices on eBay, I think the eBay prices sort of, reached its height and it dipped a little bit. And right now it's hovering around, I would think around 900, give or take. And I think it's going to slowly go up again once this is completely, like I said, sold out, where they're not even making any new ones. So there you have it. This is actually the physical console itself. Not talking about the user interface, what I think about the console or the system. This is just the physical aspect, the skin, if you will, of the controller, as well as the console itself, the packaging, all of that, the value. I think it's an amazing thing. And I think just there's no greater praise I can give it that I spent, $800 for it. And that I did that when initially I really wasn't planning on buying an Xbox at all in any iteration, because while I'm an Xbox Gold member from literally 10, 15 years ago, I don't even know how far ago, the Xbox 360 days, I think, is when they did this. And I maintain my membership every year. It was pretty cheap. I just paid it and I didn't even use it. And so I wasn't even going to get an Xbox Series X, and I don't have Game Pass for sure. But I bought this just merely for the beautiful aesthetics of it. And that I definitely am not disappointed from that. So again, just really, really happy with this. So I'm going to, again, take a break. I'm going to cut and we'll move on to the next part of the Halo Infinite limited edition collection, so to speak. Okay, welcome back after the jump. So we just finished going over the Halo Infinite Xbox Series X limited edition console with the beautiful packaging, the care, and then of course the wonderful aesthetics and pattern of it. So we're going to move on to the next part of the limited edition collection, so to speak, where they release these kind of special limited editions, so to speak. And this is the Halo Infinite Elite Series 2 controller. So this is a sort of like a, I guess, a pro controller. I've never used these before because normally just a regular controller is fine for me. But I figured if I'm gonna jump in, I might as well just jump in guns blazing and get that as well. The regular Microsoft Elite Series 2 controllers, I think, are like $190. It's quite expensive. If you think about it, it's more than 2/3 of the way toward the price of an actual Nintendo Switch. Not even a Switch Lite, like a bona fide Switch. And so this is super expensive. I won't go into too much detail about what that's like and some of the initial problems with these Elite Series 2s. I think there was like a weird batch or something when it first came out where, again, there was a lot of problems with, the controller failing and that type of thing. But this is the limited edition version, and I think that I want to say that the retail price of one of these bad boys was like $250. So again, no surprise there. I wasn't able to get this retail. I had a buy it from a scalper on eBay. I got it for like, I think $280. So not too bad. I paid maybe extra $30, $40, $50. I forget the markup, but not horrible. So this is the actual box that it comes in, and when you open this thing, which I think it's actually opens all the way up, but believe it or not, when this thing opens, and sorry again for the dishwasher sound. Dishwasher's doing the dishes right now, but if you open this, actually it just comes with this directly. Like you just find this actually in the box, and it also comes with this braided USB cord. If you look at this thing in some detail, you'll see that it is actually braided. Again, they just spend so much time. The quality is, you just can't argue with that. So it's braided, so it's less likely, I guess, to break or to snap or crack, as a lot of USB cables can. You can see the green and the gold alternating. So again, very, very pretty. This is a USB-A, so it goes, I put it into the front of my console, and the other end actually goes in here so that when you open it up, you can actually charge it directly. So when this is in there and it's charged, there's like a little light that goes on, and if you lift this thing up, which I will do, you can see that it can actually rest on this, and this is actually where the other end of that USB, if you can see it right here, that's where it connects. So you can actually charge it in a multitude of ways. You can pull this whole thing out and just connect it directly to the back of the controller right over here, so that it can just charge directly, or you can hook it up to here like I did, and then you basically have it resting in its cradle when not in use, and it just plops right in and it charges. So there's a lot of different options, and it comes with this really nice carrying case as well. You have the little pouch right over here, and then you zip it up. You can actually put this in the pouch over here if you wish, and you can just carry it with you. You can see the UNSC logo here. It's a clamshell case, excellent quality all around. You can see the back of it right over here. So again, beautiful build quality. You pay a lot for these, but I would argue that you do to some extent get what you pay for, whether that's enough to warrant essentially a controller that's almost as expensive as a switch system, of course, is going to be up to you. And again, everything is put in its right position. So let's go over this this Elite Series 2. So in terms of the functionality of the Series 2, it's exactly the same as the regular one. There's nothing particularly special about it, but again, we're here to review the aesthetics of it. So it is very, very beautiful. You can see that here you have the rubber grips that go all the way around, same as the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller here. You have this sort of green, you know, this green color. Hopefully I can show it off a little bit nicer, but you can see that it's like battle damaged. There's some weathering over here, so this is not actually scratch marks. You can see it all the way over here as well. Then you have the buttons. You have 117 over here on the side. And on the back, you have this very nice sort of detail. It's the blue circle. So this is mimicking what's on the back of Master Chief's head. This is where he inserts you know, the weapon or Cortana, whatever AI chip he has, he'll put it there. You see again 117 here. It's almost like a little dog tag with the rivets over there, the triggers, and then the paddles as well. So again, I won't go into too much detail about the actual functionality, the programming, all of that, because that's just the same thing as a Elite Series 2. But in terms of the actual aesthetics, again, this is a really, really beautiful controller. It's, you know, it has just all of the, you know, extra little details, the colors, the little paint job, the little touches where, you know, you can see almost like the wear of the metal. They kind of mimic the wear of the metal like that, as if it's Master Chief's armor, let's just say. So, you know, looking at it from far away, and for some close-ups, you can see that. So yeah, very, very well made, very beautiful. So I definitely think it's worth the extra premium. So unlike the console, it's not quite as good a deal because you know, they don't give you a game, obviously, like with the console. So they are charging you a little bit extra, again, for just the special skin, the special paint job, and the limited edition aspect of it. But it's a beautiful Elite Series 2 controller. Well worth paying the extra price if you're going to get one of these anyways, okay? Again, as with the Elite Series, all of these things can come off. You can tighten the screws here. You can change the different thumbsticks. All of these things are magnetized, right? So you can change them out however you wish. You can, you know, change the buttons. You can program every little button. And then if we go to the actual case itself, you can see there's all these different joysticks. This is the little device you can use to change the tension. So just like with the normal Series 2, but just with the special gold and the green paint as well. And so for this thing, again, instead of being black, this is nice and gold. It's all the Halo colors. So once again, this is the Halo Infinite Elite Series 2 Special Edition controller. And I think it's gorgeous. And it's a gorgeous controller, feels great in your hand. Really, really nice. And I was actually just even afraid to play with it. So actually, I played the majority of Halo Infinite, the game, with the regular controller that it came with. And I didn't really break this out because I was, just to be honest with you, I was like just intimidated by how complicated this was. I was like reading, going on YouTube, because there's so many things you can like use to program. You can program all the different buttons, the sensitivities. There's just so much to it that I was just like a little bit intimidated by all of that, and I just wanted to play the game. But in the end, after I finished all of the game and got, pretty much everything done, there was only one last thing that I needed to do, and this controller honestly was like a lifesaver. And that was the last part. You're gonna laugh at this, guys, but it's the tutorial, okay, of Halo Infinite. And one part of the tutorial are these things called weapon drills. And the weapon drills have you using all of the guns you get in Halo Infinite, from like, the battle rifle to the plasma pistol to the heat wave, everything. And you have to like do these weapon drills, and there's like 3 tiers per weapon. And the first tier, you're just shooting at stationary targets. The second tier, they move like from left to right, almost like, these like these carnival games, like these ducks that move. And then the third is they like go random. They can, you know, jump up and they can go kneel, they can kneel and stand up, they can move left and right. It's all random. And you're supposed to get like, you know, the best score is 3 stars on each tier. And without the help of this controller with the, you know, kind of almost like the turbo functionality, right, where you can set the paddles and program it and just have like, you know, like rapid fire, those weapon drills honestly was like harder than Lasso on Halo Infinite. It was murder. It was like so difficult to get them. Now granted, if you're like a PC player and you're doing mouse and keyboard, it's probably a lot easier. But like with a console and controller, like a regular controller, it would have been impossible. I personally would not have been able to get, you know, 3 stars on every single tier without the help of this Elite Series 2 controller. It was a lifesaver. And so I use this actually almost exclusively to max out all those weapon tiers. So that's where I used a lot of it. But I also use it, of course, to play, you know, the game a little bit later on, just in some multiplayer challenges and that type of thing. This is actually really, really good for like multiplayer because you can program things so you can use the paddles and you can actually, you know, run and jump without taking your thumb off of this stick. And, you know, this is what you're using to look around. And so it's actually pretty key without having to change like weird grips to use this for multiplayer. I'm not a big multiplayer person, so I got in a few achievements here or there, but yeah, that's where I used most of it. So before moving on, that I would like to comment on the getting back, on the Series X console itself. So I know that I'm mainly highlighting sort of, again, more of the aesthetics of the of these you know, pieces of hardware like the console and the controller. But here I like to point out that another thing that really annoys me about the Series X is that their regular controllers, you're still putting batteries in them, AA batteries. In fact, the Elite Series 1, which had, you know, some problems, was also battery driven. And it was only with the Series 2 that they decided to move to a chargeable version. Now, of course, that has its own issues because over time, the internal chargeable battery, you know, may wear out and you may have to, you know, then of course you have a dead controller, let's just say. But in my experience, that's just not very likely to happen. You can probably send it in to get it replaced if you want to. One of these charges is supposed to last you for 40 hours. And so far, I believe it. You know, I've only had to charge this thing, I think, once since I took it out of the box and started playing with it. And so that's kind of one of the other big advantages of this controller is that, you know, you don't have to constantly be putting in AA batteries. I feel just like for a next-gen system, you know, even the Switch really doesn't have this type of problem. And for you to still have to pop in AA batteries all the way back to even the 360 days, I just think that's a little bit of a travesty. Again, I feel like it's unworthy of a next-gen experience and feels low rent. And just like I'll call out the PlayStation's packaging for feeling shoddy, I feel like there's a certain laziness involved when you look at the base controller. Now, again, obviously the Halo Infinite Limited Edition console's controller looks gorgeous. This looks epic, but the actual design of the controller still leaves quite a lot. This is, of course, an amazing piece of hardware, but you're paying over $200 for it. And it's still lacking compared to what Sony did in terms of the R&D for the DualShock. Is the DualShock? No, the DualSense, right? Anyway, the PS5's, the PS5 controller, I think it's the DualSense, yeah. Like, they actually spent, you know, real effort and time creating it. It definitely adds a lot to the game when you're playing it. We don't even have to mention, obviously, Nintendo, where the Switch Joy-Cons are just, you know, I mean, completely unique and adds so many dimensions to gameplay. And when you compare that to Xbox, again, it just screams of laziness. They give you a rectangular box. It's basically the same as a PC. They launch without any killer app exclusives, and they give you a controller that you still require AA batteries, that doesn't have any of the, sort of the research and development, the next gen features that the DualSense has. It's the same, essentially the same controller as the one for the Xbox One. Again, that left sort of a bad taste in my mouth. Now, this, of course, does a lot to alleviate it because it's such a remarkable, it's just a remarkable controller, but you're paying over $200 for this, and I paid almost $300. I paid almost as much for this as I did for a Switch, right? And so you do expect some of that. And even then, this does not have some of the unique features that the PlayStation 5 DualSense has. So that was disappointing, okay, to look at. So I'm gonna cut out from here. I'm going to now move on to the last piece of the Xbox, the Halo Infinite Limited Edition series, which is their hard drive. And we'll talk about that after the cut. Hey everybody, welcome back. So after the jump, we're gonna talk about the last piece of equipment that was released to celebrate Halo Infinite. This is from Seagate, and this is the Halo Infinite external hard drive. Again, here's the box. It's the 5 terabyte version, and it's a game drive, external hard drive. Very cool. It comes with some, stickers, all that, but here's the packaging. You see Master Chief on here, some information on the side. This is the back. Xbox Series XS, Xbox One, UNSC from Seagate Gaming. So here's all that information right over here. So there's a bit to unpack here. Not so much with the actual hard drive itself, but some things that you should know. So the design is actually really beautiful. It's in keeping with the theme of both the console and the Elite Series 2 controller. It's kind of like mimicking, in essence, Master Chief's armor and helmet. So this is the back of the helmet. You can see again that blue circle. This is essentially the slot where Master Chief, it glows actually during the game itself. But this is the slot that Master Chief puts Cortana or the weapon or whatever AI in. This is the specifications back here. And then of course it's the same sort of a thick braided USB port that the Elite Series 2 had. Again, this is a USB-A connector. It goes and hooks up over here, so you can use this. You can connect this to the Xbox Series X. The front looks really nice. It's nice and thick. There's a little bit of weight to it. You can see again the battle damage, the wear and tear, the green, the modeling, the brand Seagate. So yeah, it looks really cool. I like it. It's got Xbox logo on it. Again, sort of the armor of Master Chief. And if I go, might as well go big or go home. So I did spend to get the larger 5 terabyte version of this. And I had to buy this off of eBay, if you can believe it, because it was sold out, because of course it is. I think the 1 terabyte is still, it was still like, on sale at GameSpot, but the 5 terabyte, since it's so huge and very few people buy it, it's so expensive, I had to actually get that off eBay too, and I had to pay a little bit of a premium. I think all told, I spent close to $1,300 on the limited edition collection, the console, the Elite Series 2, and this external hard drive. So, quite a lot of money, but it looks really, really awesome when you hook up everything together. Okay, so are you ready now for some criticism? And I think some important knowledge. I mean, it's a shame, I guess, that you had to sit through what, almost, I don't even know, half an hour, 40 minutes of this to get to this part, to get the information. But there's some important information connected with all of this that I think is important. So let's get into it. And I don't think this is really out there on any YouTube video. I had to do a lot of deep digging, ridiculously deep digging on like Google and Microsoft stupid, like, help forums to get to the truth of the matter. So let's start from the beginning. Number one, they had actually released a Halo limited edition hard drive in the past. And I think it was for the Xbox One X or One S or whatever. And there's some confusion because that version has actually Master Chief, like the character on the actual hard drive. So I don't know whether that was done to celebrate the Master Chief Collection, which was released for the Xbox One, or some sort of anniversary or something, okay? But know that if you're getting that one, that's not the Halo Infinite version of this. And I don't even know if this is actually even limited edition. I mean, there's a exclusive sticker pack. I'm looking at the actual packaging. I mean, for sure, the controller and the console are limited edition, and they're not going to be making those forever. I mean, I'm guessing this is eventually going to be out of print as well. But I don't know if this is actually limited edition. But I'm going to just call it that because this was released specifically to celebrate Halo Infinite, the game. Okay, you can actually see 117. Again, Master Chief's number on here. So this was something that if you don't follow, like I didn't really follow this, there was some confusion. I was like, well, which is which? But yeah, so in case there's any doubt, if you see a version of this with Master Chief on the hard drive, that's not the Halo Infinite version. The Halo Infinite version is what you're seeing here with the 117. It's green, it's the green color and the gunmetal green, so to speak, and the wear and tear here. So that's number one, okay? You can know what you're getting. And it comes, again, I think in the 5, and is it 2 or 1? I think it's 2 terabytes, right? But again, it comes in different sizes. So number one. Number two, when you connect this to your Xbox Series X or S, and I assume the 1S or whatever, or the 1X, understand that the 5 terabytes here, you cannot actually use this to run Xbox Series X games off this hard drive, okay? You can run last gen games off of this hard drive, games that can run on the Xbox One. But for instance, you can't run like Forza Horizon is a 5. You can't run Halo Infinite. You can't run games that are like made for the Series X or S off of this hard drive, all right? Now you can move games from the actual console hard drive to here temporarily to make room on the console to play games off of it, but you have to swap back and forth. So this is not sort of the panacea that you would hope it is. If you want to actually run the the next gen games, you have to actually spray money to buy the actual SSD expansion, which you plug into the back of the Series X or S console, and that's like a couple $100 actually. Okay, and there you can run all the games off of that with all the advantages and the speed of those solid state drives. So that's a limitation you should be aware of. Another thing that's really bad is why did I even get this in the first place? I mean, yes, if I'm a collector, I want everything, all Halo Infinite, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's part of why I got it. But one of the things that's really, again, a disadvantage of the Xbox Series X console that I now want to take the time to highlight is that they're capturing like interface is absolutely horrible compared to Sony. So what I mean by that is that, you know, your ability by capturing, I mean that, you know, it's your ability to save gameplay right off of the game, save it to the hard drive of the system you're playing on, and then uploading it directly to whatever you want. You know, most of the time YouTube, but I guess whatever, whether it's Twitter or Twitch or Instagram. But Sony has like this amazingly streamlined and user-friendly ability to do that. I don't know if this was even, I think, yeah, it was even on the PS4 generation, it was able to do it. But on the PS5, it's amazing because you're just playing the game, and at any point, if you press the capture button, the system actually automatically records the last 1 hour of gameplay, just automatically. And then you can choose how much that hour you want to save. But it's so simple and so easy to create content for your YouTube channel on the PlayStation, because you literally just play it, you capture it, you can edit it on, you know, I think the Sony PlayStation 5 actually has its own proprietary program or app to edit, just basic edits like trimming and splicing. It's free to use, and then after you do it, you can resave it and you can just basically upload it directly to YouTube. It's super convenient, and I've used it to upload a lot of gameplay. You know, that a lot of gameplay for Uncharted 4, a lot of gameplay for the earlier games in the Uncharted series, like, you know, Uncharted 3 even, Demon Souls Remastered. It's just beautiful, okay? The Xbox Series X does not have any of that. It's horrible. It only allows you to record a few minutes, and that's at like, I think 1080p. And if you go to resolution 4K, it won't let you do more than 30 seconds, which again is just a joke when you compare that to the PS5. And so the only way to actually record longer clips without having to use a capture card. Now, I do have a capture card, but as you know, it gets sort of messy with that. You know, you got to get a good capture card. It's got to be able to pass through 4K. You have to hook it in tandem into your console. And then because it's a capture card, you're not going to be able to stream, you know, like Netflix or Disney Plus or, you know, things of that nature. If you do want to use it, if you do want to use, for instance, your Xbox Series X apps to watch content, when you interpose a capture card, the you know, the system will detect that, and it will not allow you to use it unless you like disable HDCP or something. I mean, in a nutshell, they don't want you obviously to be recording, you know, streaming content onto a external hard drive. So you have to go into the menu and switch back and forth. If you're a dedicated streamer on Twitch or whatever, then it's a no-brainer. You need a high quality, you know, capture card, of course, obviously. But if you're someone like, say, me, where you just want to upload a few small clips, maybe a review, you're rarely going to be doing it for more than an hour, right? Let's just say. And so the Sony PS5 and before the PS4 Plus, the PS4 Pro, for instance, they just make it so much easier to do. And for the Xbox Series X, they make it like literally damn near impossible to do. And so if you don't want to have to use a capture card, which is the whole point of these, like, why even have this? The whole point of these capture user-friendly functions is so you do not have to use a capture card, correct? Why even have the function there? Why even have the function there if all you're going to allow are 30 seconds to 1 or 2 minutes of gameplay? It's just asinine, in my opinion. So if you want to record up to the hour, whereas for the Sony PS5, it's built into the machine, into the system, you have to buy an external hard drive in order to open it up and be able to capture up to an hour, okay, of your gameplay or footage. So that was another reason why I wanted to get one of these. So the nightmare, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't end there. because now you're going to take this and then you're going to plug it into the Xbox Series X, and a few things are supposed to happen, but they don't necessarily happen. And part of it, again, is the Xbox's internal software and programming. It's basically, again, a mess. Okay, so this drive can be used to either store game data, like literally a video game, or you can use it as a hard drive to store capture media, like videos and photos and stuff like that. And you have to actually format this external hard drive differently depending on what you want to use it for. Okay, so if you want to use this for what most people buy external hard drives for, so forget the whole Halo Infinite, special skin or whatever. If you're just buying like a 5 terabyte external hard drive, most of the time you're buying that because you're wanting to use it to back up your computer, to back up photos, video, you get the idea. And if you do that, you need to format it as like, I think NTFS or whatever, like it begins with an N. Yeah, I think it's like NTFS or NTFC, NT something. You need to format it like that to use it again to store like stuff like video, pictures, etc., right? Data. And out of the box, out of the packaging, it comes pre-formatted like that. It comes pre-formatted NTFC, okay? And if you want to use this as a capture card, then that is how you want to format it, okay? If you want to use this connected to the Xbox Series X, and you want to use it to hold like game data, you have to actually format it as another type. And there's the option to do it once you connect this to the Xbox. You have the opportunity to format this to just hold games, okay? And you can't do both. You can't use it to store games and to store video and photo, etc. That you have to choose. And every time you go back and forth, it deletes everything on it. It's basically a reformat, guys. Okay, so just you lose all the data, obviously. So they warn you that if you're going to do that, you have to back up whatever you have because you're going to lose it. Okay, so far so good. By the way, another really annoying thing is that even after you save all of the gameplay data onto this, external hard drive, unlike the PS5 where you can manipulate it, clip, cut, move things around and upload directly to YouTube, you can't do that with the information. It will only let you do that with the 30-second to 1-minute clips. So if you want to upload to YouTube, you have to take this, disconnect from the Xbox Series X, connect it to your PC, transfer the data to the PC, and then like use whatever app you have or whatever program you have on the PC to change things around, and then upload that to YouTube on your PC. Again, this is like literally, I think, a generation behind Sony when it comes to just ease of use and friendliness to like YouTube, Twitch, etc. It's basically horrible. Okay, so why am I going into such detail about this? You know about this because you probably know about all of this, right? If you just like look at other channels, because there's like a bug, a compatibility issue with this. And if you plug this in, at least for me, and when I went online and checked for a lot of people, it will not recognize this hard drive. If you want to use it to get capture media, again, to format NTFC, for some, I don't even want to get into the nitty gritty of the stupidity of why. But basically, because of Seagate and the Xbox program, the infrastructure, the operating system of the stupid Series X, it won't recognize that this thing is actually already formatted for you, okay? And so you put it in, it'll say you need to format it. And it won't let you format it for NTFC. The Xbox won't do it for you. You have to disconnect this, plug it into your PC, and format it there. Well, I did that. you shouldn't have to do that. It's already come formatted, but I did it anyway. And even though I formatted it, it still will not recognize that you did it. It will insist that you haven't done it, okay? And it will continue to say, you need to format it. It's really, really annoying and buggy, and you actually won't be able to use it. Like, it doesn't, like, the right messages don't pop up. So what I did was, okay, now you can get really deep into this. And by deep, I mean into deep trouble, okay? Supposedly it has to do with some sort of weird formatting, and you can try to kind of go in and try to delete certain aspects of the hard drive. There's like, Seagate have put in some sort of weird program in there that it comes with it. Try not to do that. You could jack up the entire hard drive. And it's not simple to do, by the way, just to let you know, like, you're like running into like the actual like run DOS command section of it. It's just not good, okay? So what I did rather stupidly is I actually formatted it as now a drive to save games. And that the Xbox Series X does allow you to do if you connect it to the Series X. So again, like stupidity, why would it not let you format an NTFC or whatever, but it lets you format it as a game drive, as a backup for games. So I did that, and now you can use this to backup games. I was hoping to do that and then reformat it and change it from, a hard drive to backup games to, again, a hard drive that backs up video and photo. I was trying to do that. But here's the kicker. When you actually format this as a game drive, and then you hook it up to the PC, your PC won't even recognize this, believe it or not, because now it's no longer a quote-unquote hard drive that, that's formatted correctly. Like, you literally can't format it on the PC as an NTFC. You have to actually like use another command to actually go in like, there's like, I don't know, what is it? Have to go to like some sort of a control panel. You have to actually like Google this, and then you have to go in there and then reset the whole thing and then reformat it. So it's a huge pain in the ass to actually get this thing to even be recognized as properly formatted by the Xbox Series X to even use. This is, by the way, similar to the problem with like Xbox One even, right? It's an old problem. So finally, after formatting on the Xbox Series X to be a, game drive, so you can back up games on it, and then taking it out, plugging it into my PC, going to the control panel of the PC, following the instructions after Googling it to then locate it, find it, and then reformat as NTFC, which I shouldn't even have to do because it already came formatted, and then plugging it back into the Xbox Series X, fiddling with the settings. I finally got this to be recognized as a, as a external hard drive where I can put video and photos, and then I set the system to capture to this hard drive, okay? And finally it was done. I tested it out and it worked. And even then, again, you can't just upload to YouTube from here. You have to, again, disconnect to go to the PC. It's stupid. So that's major problem number one. And none of that really should even be an issue if, again, the operating system was a little bit friendlier, or had more common sense, or you shouldn't even need to use this. You should just be saving this directly to the hard drive. So this is just completely, again, just idiotic that this situation occurred. And for this to have such a hard time even being usable by the Series X, it just smacks of just laziness and this attitude of like they don't care. Like, like it just shows you that when they're designing the system, in a lot of ways, it shows you that Sony actually is still thinking about their system. Like like Sony feels like they still think of themselves as a video game console business. Nintendo obviously thinks of that. And with Xbox, you just get the feeling that they just don't care about the console. They don't care about that because in their mind, it's just a way to deliver Game Pass. Like Xbox, Microsoft is moving more and more away from console, in my opinion, and more toward like just delivering game content as a service. And their lack of care shows in the way they designed the console, the way they designed all these things, the operating system, all of it is just like not good. And so even though I give them props for having this like kind of sort of beautiful box and foam and packaging is like very, very boutique, but it's like, the whole don't judge a book by the covers, or it's like the pretty girl who's a psychopath. It's like, yeah, the external part, the superficial part is really pretty and nice, but the guts, the solid part, the internal part, the part that counts, at least to me, it's lacking. It seems like it's rotten. You know what I mean? So we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Okay, like this bitch session is not over yet. It's been almost 30 minutes. Not done yet. And all of this is focused on this, by the way, because that's where I unearthed, okay, all of the nonsense. So finally, guys, I got this thing to be recognized. It's now hooked up to my Xbox Series X. I'm going to capture footage onto this thing if I want to in the future, even if I still have to, manipulate it or upload it on a computer, which sucks. So now get this. When you hook it up, this down here, it lights up, okay? It lights up, and you can actually change the color. I think the default color is gold, which is great. You can actually hook it up to the PC, download an app, and can change the color. I didn't bother with any of that nonsense. So it's like with every external hard drive, there's like an internal motor, okay? And when the hard drive is active, the motor is gonna spin. And when it's not active, the motor settles down. So here goes. Another thing that's so stupid. You plug this thing into the Xbox Series X, and then you turn the system into sleep mode. So Series X doesn't have actually a lot of different modes. Like, it basically, if you turn it off, you think you've turned it off, it's actually just automatically in sleep. When it's in sleep mode, there's a setting, which I already checked, where all of this stuff is supposed to turn off, okay? All of this stuff is supposed to turn off unless it's needed. So maybe, I don't know, a couple times a night, this should light up and that you can see the little internal motor spin so that, I don't know, it's doing something stupid like downloading or checking something. Okay, that's fine. But again, this is a bug, not something that's talked about. You have to dig, again, really deep on Google and the question forums to get an answer. This was years ago I found the answer. Not something often discussed. And maybe there's very few people, I guess, maybe use it for this purpose. But at least with the Series X, it's again an issue with maybe Xbox operating system, Xbox Live, whatever it is. Every minute, no joke, like every minute or 2 minutes, this thing is gonna turn on for no reason. It just turns on, then it shuts off. Turns on, shuts off. So can you imagine, like, it's doing this like hundreds of times a night. I was sleeping, and now I learn, it's like, I have my TV in my room, in my bedroom, I'm sleeping, and there's always like little tiny sounds, right? Like, my cable box is doing the same stupid thing, it's turning on and off. And it's like, I kept hearing this click and this whirling, and I realized with horror after a while that it was my hard drive. What do you think is going to be the lifetime of this hard drive if it's turning off and on, 1,000 times a night, okay? 1,000 times a day. Every 2 minutes it's doing that. 30 times an hour. I mean, it's a nightmare, ridiculous. It's completely stupid. And when you delve deep into the reasoning behind it, I'm gonna save you guys a lot of time. There is no solution. It happens very often with Seagate for some reason, but I don't think it's actually Seagate's fault necessarily. I think it has to do with the Xbox Series X operating system. And you can't stop it. It's going to do it. It's going to turn it on and off, on and off, cycling again and again and again. And the only way to stop this is by actually completely powering down the Xbox Series X every time you finish playing a game, which of course defeats the purpose. Again, it's like modern gaming consoles like PlayStation 5, whatever. You don't do that. You put it in sleep mode. While the console is in sleep mode, it's downloading all of the updates. It can download games for you while you're doing other things. It's a pretty big part of modern game consoles, right? The ability to background download stuff, and that's all part of the sleep mode, you would kill that if you had to turn the entire system completely off to prevent connected hard drives from essentially, wearing itself out when you don't even want it to turn on because it's on sleep mode. I understand if this thing's on all the time when I'm playing the video game. I get that. It's supposed to be on all the time. But when it's off, it's supposed to be off. And because of this stupid bug, it's constantly turning on and off. And so the only way to stop that is by either shutting down the Xbox all the way down and then have to turn it all the way back up every time you turn it off and on, which is, again, dumb. Like if I'm playing Halo Infinite, I'm playing it every day. There's maybe sometimes a few times a day I'm turning it off and on. There's no way I want to power my Xbox console completely on and off every time. You just want it to be in sleep mode and go quick play, right? So the only other option is just to disconnect this. Essentially sever the connection between this and the Xbox to save this hard drive. I can totally see this hard drive failing if you're putting it under that type of stress. So in essence, then, one of the big advantages is just having it connected. You can't do that. So if you want to use it, you have to now actually just physically connect it to the console when you're ready to use it. Otherwise, you have to disconnect it, because when you turn the console off, it will destroy this hard drive over time. I'm convinced of that. Okay. And so between that bug, the fact that it was so hard to even get this thing to be used, I mean, all this research, I wasted so much time just being able to use this. And this is supposed to be the stupidest thing. It's just a stupid external hard drive. I've bought tons of these over the years. Seagate, I have a Seagate now connected to my PC. That's like backup. For that much work to have to be done just to get this thing to be used for the Series X is a major, major failure. Okay, major, major failure in my mind. So sorry to have to end the Halo Infinite limited edition collection. That's such a downer, but the console, the controller, the Elite controller, and this hard drive, they all look really beautiful, really cool. I don't regret, buying that at all. Aesthetically, it's amazing, well worth the price. But in terms of the actual Xbox itself, I have significant problems with just all of it in terms of just how the interface is, how user-friendly it is, and again, indirectly, the care that Microsoft put into it. If you're reading between the lines and you compare it to, say, Sony, you can clearly see the fact that they just don't care. Because if they did, they will put more time and effort and thought. And I got news for you guys. These bugs are not getting patched. They're not getting fixed because I just told you they don't care. This has been a problem since the Xbox One days. They're going to give you a big middle finger. Okay, so you're going to just have to work around it and figure that out. Another thing you can do is, I guess, you can turn the option off in the settings and don't have them turn this off, which means that when your console is in sleep mode, this is on all the time. I don't think that's great, but it's probably better than having to go off, on, off, on, off, on. Like a computer can stay on all the time, this is fine. But if you do that, then this is going to get hot quite a bit, because it's going to be on all the time. So you have to pick your poison in terms of doing that. So that's it. That's my review of the Xbox, of the Halo Infinite limited edition Xbox console, Elite controller, as well as the Seagate 5 terabyte external hard drive. They all work. They all look gorgeous, but it unearths a lot of things that's kind of lacking with the actual base console itself. So next up, I think I'm just going to piggyback my review of Halo Infinite onto this. So it's going to be like the big Halo Infinite video from all of the hardware now to the game itself. So I'll talk about that after the cut. All right, welcome back after the cut. So I checked some of the video. So I spent probably like an hour and 20 minutes, give or take, just kind of showing you some close-ups and my thoughts on the Halo Infinite limited edition collection of those things. And that's about an hour 20, and now we're going to talk about the actual game itself, Halo Infinite. And then of the hour 20, I think half an hour, close to like probably a good half an hour spent just ranting about the frustrations of just getting things to work on the operating system side of the Series X, and just what's going on, which is, by the way, just really in a way kind of sad, because the Xbox 360 was miles ahead of the game at the time compared to the PS3 in terms of how fun it was to just like to play multiplayer. That's part of the reason I got Xbox Gold. It was the first time I actually played any significant amount of multiplayer. I'm not a big multiplayer person at all, just because it wastes too much time. I don't have the time to do it. But I think it was with Halo 3 that I really got into trying to get multiplayer achievements. I spent a lot of time playing it. Even with like Halo 4 later on, I was playing the Spartan Ops stuff. But it was really good. And so the fact that now just the user interface is just so clunky is a little bit disappointing, to say the least. So anyways, let's get into Halo Infinite. I played Halo 1, 2, 3, obviously. Really big fan of those games. I did finish ODST, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like the dreary city levels, and you're not playing as Master Chief, which I really wanted to do. You feel like you're playing almost like a sort of like a fake, fake Spartan, so to speak. So I didn't love that. And I skipped Reach entirely because I hate the idea of prequels. I really wasn't interested in finding out the details of how they lost Reach. Again, I felt like there was, in a sense, it was sort of like, did you finish the story or not in Halo 3? If you finished it, you finished it. If you want to make another game, then please go forward. If you decided that you're sick of it and you want to move on, then why even go back and try to cash in with Reach? I know this might be a controversial take, because I know that Reach may have had some very, very popular multiplayer options, but to me, it seemed pointless. And I played Halo 4, which was interesting, and I had quite a bit of issues with this, and the Halo 5 was so terrible, I actually never made it past the campaign. Normally I would try to get every single player achievement. I would finish every single campaign from the Halo series on Legendary, and Halo 5 was the game, I think I played it on normal, and I wasn't even able to finish on normal because the characters and the storytelling just left me just cold. I was just uninterested and bored for the first time ever, and so basically I never actually even finished Halo 5. So this sort of informs my background and my experience as far as approaching Halo Infinite, which had just been so long. It's like years, like I think 6 years since Halo 5 was released. You're just thinking to yourself, like, what's Microsoft thinking? What's 343 thinking? It's their flagship franchise. It just seems like a mess. Like, how can you launch a new console without a killer app? You launch without a game to get anybody excited. Just launch with old games from the previous generation. There's hardly any difference between an Xbox One X and an Xbox Series X. Even the name is confusing for someone like me who's been out of the loop for a while. It was just a disaster. And so again, the only reason I even bought all of this was because I wanted to play Halo Infinite, because I still have so much like a soft spot and nostalgia for the world and the universe of Halo. So let's talk about Halo Infinite. Number one, I think that the story for Halo Infinite is a little bit messy. I think there's parts of it that's great, but then it feels almost like they had to waste an entire episode of Halo trying to retcon and apologize and soft reboot what they had done in Halo 4 and 5. So it seems like a wasted opportunity. You're not advancing the story the way you're supposed to because you have so much baggage from your horrific storytelling decisions from the first two games. So to get back to that, let's just get one thing clear. In Halo 4, after sort of the beautiful ending of the original Halo trilogy by Bungie, the main sequence, not talking about ODST or Reach, which is more like, in my opinion, almost like cash grabs, at least from a storytelling perspective. We're just kind of going backwards to fill in details that frankly is not all that important to begin with. That was ended beautifully. So Halo 4 starts, and 343 Studios decides to essentially solve a problem that doesn't exist, that never existed. And that problem is Cortana. They decided to make the relationship between Master Chief and Cortana a central conflict in the game. And they created a scenario where her rampancy, which was really never even mentioned or hinted at in the core games, other than if you want like a throwaway dumb line in the beginning of Halo, the original Halo Combat Evolved, when if you decide to shoot and kill people on the bridge in the beginning of the game, you'll hear Cortana say that the chief has gone rampant. So in that respect, rampancy is used, of course, to denote, you know, craziness, right? Madness. There's no hint of that in the original trilogy, that rampancy is even an issue. And so it made it seem like they kind of just pulled it out of their butt wholesale to create an artificial scenario conflict where Cortana's gonna go mad and die. And so they use that rampancy to kill her. And so within the context of Halo 4, her sacrifice and her eventual, dissolution is interesting. I mean, it's not something, again, that I, as an original fan, wanted. I don't think anybody, if you want to talk about true fans, people who are like, how many people at the end of Halo 3 was like, you know what we really need? We really need Cortana to be destroyed. We need to see what it's like to get rid of her and kill her and see what effect that has on Chief. Like, she is one of the most important core characters of the original Halo trilogy. And so why would you want to break up that partnership? Like, that partnership between her and Master Chief sort of forms the heart of the story, the heart of that interaction, that character, right? That's what we're invested in. So 343 Studios decided to get rid of that. Okay, I mean, I wasn't happy about that, but they went ahead and they did it. And now we're going to do what exactly? Explore what it's like for Master Chief to go on without his friend, without his confidant. I felt that it would have made, gameplay kind of boring, because part of the charm of Halo with the little quips and the interactions in your head between you and Cortana, you're kind of used to that. And now you remove it. They tried to replace that, by the way, in Halo 5 with these 3 other members of your team. And again, it was in response to a problem that literally didn't exist, which is a multiplayer. Well, who are all these other, Spartans? It's like, nobody cared, right? It's like, they're just whatever. It's a game. They're just whatever. You're playing multiplayer with friends. The guy doesn't have to have a name. They're just different colors. Excuse me. Different versions. So I'll just say that it was not the same. Like, just having these stupid people, these team members that you have absolutely no connection and no investment in, you can care less about them, talking to you as you're playing the game in Halo 5, definitely was not a suitable replacement for what you had before with Cortana, even in Halo 4, before they killed her at the end of the game. And so they killed her off, and then in Halo 5, they brought her back with this whole drama, ridiculous situation where she went to, I don't even know, she went to the source or whatever, cured her of whatever rampancy. And then she decided that she was going to conquer the universe. They turned her essentially into a bad guy, which was pretty predictable. And so it's like, what? Like, why did you need to turn her into the bad guy? Like, again, what possessed you at the end of Halo 3 to take this core, very beautiful relationship, kill her, bring her back as the villain? And it was just terrible. Of all the stories you could have told, you already brought back the Forerunners. There were so many things you could have done, so much story to tell. You decided to make that one of the things. And if you're going to do that, you better be really confident about your story. You better be really confident about the details of where you're going to go. And they were making it up. They were clueless. They had no idea. They just decided, like, yeah, let's just kill her off. Let's make her evil. Let's see what happens. There was no planning. There was no elegance in the storytelling. And so there was this huge backlash, horrific backlash, and well-deserved to Halo 5. So now here we are 6 years later, maybe 7 after a year delay or whatever, and now they have to somehow retcon this terrible decisions. And it sets up a story for Halo Infinite that, quite frankly, is a bit, ridiculous. It's a little bit off. Now, there's aspects of the story that I found quite enjoyable, but as someone, again, you have to know where I'm coming from, as somebody who just looked with a lot of distaste on the story in Halo 4 and 5 and how it evolved, especially 5, which I couldn't even finish that. I had to read it and watch it on YouTube to catch up. I couldn't even bear to finish the game. It was so terrible. I didn't find Halo Infinite story to be particularly good because it seemed like such a waste of time to just get us back to where we were. So to summarize, and just avoid spoilers, Halo Infinite starts off with a technique called in media res. So in media res means that you start the story in the middle of the story, and then you piece together what happened as you progress until finally everything sort of clicks into place. It's sort of like a very, arty way of telling a story, experimental. It's something that 343 Studios, quite frankly, have no business engaging in something of that sophistication. It's a mess. And the reason it's a mess is because there's no competence in storytelling from them. They start you off from Halo 5 already skipping a ton of content that they expect you to try to catch up on by reading the stupid books and watching some YouTube video or playing. It's like the core storyline needs to be in the core games. You shouldn't have to force your fans to waste time. I don't even care about the money, just time on your really mediocre products, comic books and books and all this other nonsense to know what's going on. So they do something similar again for Halo Infinite, but they muddy the waters even more by going in media res. So normally in media res, you don't know what's going on, but that's part of the plan, and you're supposed to figure that out as the story proceeds. But Halo Infinite's muddied waters because part of it you learn as the story progresses, but part of it you will never learn because they introduce characters and people that you had to have played Halo Wars 1 and 2 and read this book and read this comic book to begin with. So from the point of view of that aspect, in media res is like one of the worst ways to tell a story you can imagine for Halo Infinite, and they decided to choose that, okay? So they introduced this guy named Atriox, who's the leader of a faction called the Banished, who is a splinter of the Covenant that did not believe in the Covenant. This faction and this leader called Atriox was introduced in a sideline real-time strategy game that I think very few people care about. Certainly I didn't play it. Certainly the vast majority of people who are playing first-person shooter Halo trilogy is not going to play Halo, Halo Wars or whatever. So you take it from that, and again, most of us are confused. Who is this guy? At the end of Halo 5, it's about the Forerunners. It's about the Didact. the librarian, it's about Cortana as a new threat, and now out of nowhere you give us this guy. That's already problem number one. I'm confused. And then you proceed along with Aatrox then dying off screen. The game starts with a cutscene where you and Aatrox are fighting, and then he tosses you off the ship and beats you up ridiculously easily, by the way. And then you're left in space for 6 months. And when you come to, Aatrox is dead. And apparently, as you move along, Cortana is also dead. So this huge threat, Cortana, which you've had this relationship with, goes from, you know, she sacrificed herself at Halo 4, becomes a new thing at Halo 5, at Halo 6. In Halo Infinite, you never ever interact with her, Cortana, at all. You just watch memories of her, messages she leaves you. But she resolved the whole thing with Aatrox, who you don't even know to begin with, and then Cortana is resolved completely off screen when you come to. So this robs the story of a tremendous amount of tension, and it turns basically Halo Infinite's story to one of almost like a detective novel, where in terms of the more personal aspect of it, you have to piece together as time passes. So that's a disaster, you can imagine. And then despite the limitations and complaints and failings of the previous two games, Halo 4 and 5, a lot of lore was still built up. Commander Lasky, Sarah Palmer, Catherine Halsey, the Spartan 4s, Locke, the Blue Team. We can go on and on. I don't love it, but you've invested 2 games worth of lore there. The Infinity as a ship. All of that basically destroyed in media res, gone when you start the game. Now, whether these characters are still alive or not, likely they are, that's beside the point. You don't spend any time with them. So again, sloppy and unsatisfying. It's like they realized that they had made a dog's dinner of the story and the characters for the first 2 games, and their response is to just take a eraser and just like a dry board eraser and erase everything in the beginning of Halo Infinite, just pray that you just won't notice. Okay, I mean, did you have to give us Aatrox that probably, I would easily guess 80% of all of us is no idea who he is, right? Maybe 90%. I mean, how many people are Halo hardcore enough to play this? I mean, maybe it's been 6 years, maybe just out of desperation, you're gonna play it. How desperate are you that, let's just say if you are a Halo fan, would you play a Halo platformer? If you're if Master Chief was Mario? How far does it go? I don't know, right? But you give us a character like Aatrox we don't even know about, you kill him off screen. And all the characters we do care about, you get rid of them. There's no follow-up. So that wasn't very good. And then you finally pick up this entity called the Weapon, which is an exact copy of Cortana that Halsey created to control Cortana. And again, the story just doesn't make any sense. I mean, now there's multiple YouTube videos that have gone into this, but you don't have to be a nitpicking, genius or whatever to figure it out. It's what is going on? Why is Cortana even at, this Halo facility in the first place, right? Why is she even at Zeta Halo? Why does she even need it? She had Guardians already dominated the galaxy. Why does the weapon have to be even created to quote unquote lock her down? What if she wasn't even there? Why do you even have to go there? Why do you have to lock her down and then transport her back to the Infinity to delete her? I can just delete her there. There's just all these complications that don't make any sense. But at the end of the day, you wind up with a situation where Cortana just says goodbye to Chief in the most ridiculous fashion ever. She already said her goodbyes in Halo 4, which ended quite nicely. I mean, I'm not a big fan of getting rid of her, But if you're going to do that, then fine, the way the Halo 4 ended is a reasonable way to get rid of her. But for you to bring her back and turn her into this monster, like in Halo Infinite, they have to justify everything that you've done. And so it shows her blowing up Australia, for instance. It shows her destroying an entire station filled with Spartan 4s. I mean, they're very careful not to fill it with Spartan 2s because there's not that many of them. So you kill like, I don't know, what, 70 Spartan 4s, everybody shrugs. Nobody cares, I don't care. I was like, I don't know any of these people, whatever, shrug. It's just to show how evil she is. Like, you know, beyond moral redemption. She blows up Atriox's home planet. So the whole planet of the brutes gets destroyed because they refuse to go along with her. It's like, it's like the story was written by like a child. It's like none of it makes any sense. Why would you blow up the home planet of the brutes when one brute who's the head of the banished, like they don't even represent mainstream brute like philosophy for all we know, and he refuses to bend the knees, so you blow up the planet? It's like just completely ridiculous and asinine and almost hilarious, right? It just doesn't even make any sense at all. It's just silly. And why didn't Cortana blow up Earth? If she had the power through her guardians to destroy whole planets, why did she limit herself to just blowing up Australia where the UNSC headquarters were? Why wouldn't she just vaporize Earth? Right? I mean, all of these things, it just shows, again, just sloppy, lazy storytelling, writing. It's just convenient. It takes you out of the story because it's just stupid. And so she did all these things. You just have to think a little bit. It's like, so you killed how many? Is it millions? Hundreds of millions? I mean, are there 18 brutes on the entire planet? I mean, did you kill billions of people? Did you wipe out the entire species? Were you doing that all throughout? I mean, how many other planets did you blow up? We don't know. 343 Studios doesn't know. They just, I don't know. Like I said, maybe they gave it to like the 12-year-old kid. Maybe the 12-year-old son or daughter, one of the developers, wrote the story. I don't know. And then she decides after Atriox shows up, after she's already been locked down by the weapon, so she can't go anywhere. She's like trapped in the silent auditorium. And Atriox shows like Chief's body floating in space. If you see Chief's body floating in space, why didn't you do the job, finish the job? Why didn't you crush him? Why didn't you take him back? Why did you throw him in space in the first place? You know, and then you tell her he's dead. Does she believe you or she doesn't believe you? She seems devastated when you first tell her. So it seems like she believes that you killed him. But then later on, when the weapon shows up and she analyzes the weapon, she talks like John's alive. She's like, you know, John needs my help. John needs her. This has to work, blah, blah, blah. Why would the weapon showing up and Cortana realizing that the weapon is a copy of her created by Halsey the Trapper then make her think that John is still alive, where she previously was convinced that he was dead by looking at the hologram of him floating in space, right? And so at the very end, she comes back to her senses. Why exactly? Did she regret what she did because Atriox happened to trap her? Because Halsey, you know, because the weapon trapped her? Like, why would you change your mind? What is it about your programming? Aren't you still rampant? Like from Halo 5 lore, aren't you just still like this rampant fragment that made it down and then, you know, I guess you got cured? It was like a jumbled mess. So you change your mind because you thought John was dead, and then you're just gonna say you're sorry that happened. It just seemed awfully, it was just very difficult for me to buy into these sudden, rapid pendulum swings in motivation. I was horrible. I was completely sure that I'm gonna be like, you know, space Hitler, Nazi, conquer everything. And then immediately after seeing about it, it's like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I was wrong. And her explanation was also just dumb at the very end of the game. She's like, oh, I lost sight of the fact that we're supposed to do this together. What does that mean? Like, from the very beginning, you're supposed to be a team. You can't do it alone. So if John was down with it, would you have continued to just blow up planets and kill billions of people? And if John said no, she just said no. Like, what possessed you to do in the first place? It seemed like you had already made your decision that you were going to become the new carrier of the mantle of responsibility for all of sentient life in the universe. That's kind of like a big decision to make, to be convinced that you're going to do that. And then you were just like, oh, John, if you just said no, I would have totally just like, yeah, you're right. We're a team. If you don't go along with me, none of this is going to happen. Like, it seemed like you were beyond that. And why wouldn't you have decided that way early on? What did it take? It took you thinking that he died to realize, like, no, you shouldn't have done that. Again, motivationally speaking, it felt like a 10, 11-year-old had written it. It's just ridiculous. It's very hard to feel pathos when it's so poorly written. So the upshot at the end of the game is that you wind up beating a guy who loves Atriox, like the guy like Eshram. Like, why did you even give us Eshram as a stand-in, a guy we don't care about, when you already dumped Atriox, who most of us barely even know, and then for you to kill him? Like, it's just so stupid. Why wouldn't you just keep Atriox in the first place? So you kill Eshram. Atriox turns out not to have died, which is just another, like, what? Like, do Ex Machina, like, what? This is a stupid idea. Why did you bring him back in the first place? What's the point of giving us a character we don't know, killing him off screen, bringing him back off screen, and most of the game we're saddled with his grandfather with, like, brute lung cancer? It's just ridiculously silly. So at the end of the day, they're all gone. You've taken back your segment of the ring. The weapon has now become a new version of Cortana that's not burdened by the baggage of the nonsense that you gave Cortana in the first place. You ruined her character in Halo 4 and 5 and 6. And then you give us another version of her that is not burdened by that baggage. But it's like you screwed it up in the first place. We wouldn't have needed the weapon if I just simply kept Cortana in the first place and written a nice story with the Forerunners or another version of the Flood or whatever, even the Endless. But no, you did all of that. So you just basically took us back to square one. The Flood's gone. You gave us the Forerunners. You never followed through with that. And you made up the Endless out of nowhere as another just out of nowhere threat that you put in the third game of your trilogy. And then you leave us on a cliffhanger. And it's hard for any of us to just care about the Endless at all. Why wasn't the Endless mentioned in Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You know what I'm saying? So as far as the story goes, the best I can say is that you finally left us at a place where we should have been in the very beginning, which is Master Chief, Cortana, unblemished partnership, and here they are. Now they're on another Halo, trying to delve into the mysteries of it, uncover the mystery of the Endless. They still have to mop up the banished remnant. They've done a significant job beating them back, essentially taking a situation that was hopeless and creating one there is hope. You still have to see what happens to Lasky, Palmer, Halsey, some of those, and Atriox is back, maybe having set free the Endless. You've set the stage for perhaps some more compelling stories in that setting, but it took you so much time to get there. And are we going to really have compelling single-player campaign content as downloadable content in the next few years that's polished? I kind of have my doubts about that. So at least you set things up to be good, but only good as the pale shadow of the original was, because that's what we always wanted in the very beginning. So you went this big circle into back to the beginning again, right? Master Chief, Cortana, Marines, fighting against essentially a version of the Covenant, even though they're the banished of the Covenant. It's the same enemies as the Covenant, right? Elite brutes. You get the idea. It's just essentially sort of a weird, soft reboot / retcon and wiping away all of your nonsense from 4 or 5 to get us back to here. What a waste. Over a decade. So hopefully you do something better with that. So that's the story. I feel like, again, it was a muddled mess, and I feel like the closure for Cortana was just, it rang hollow to me because I felt like it shouldn't have ever come to that in the first place. You just feel like you just didn't go anywhere new. In terms of the actual gameplay, I give it very high marks. This is the first time that Halo went into open world, and for its first foray, it's definitely no Breath of the Wild. Okay, it's no Horizon Zero Dawn, no Breath of the Wild. It's not even Far Cry. Thank God it's not Far Cry Assassin's Creed with Ubisoft's just insane checklist of, essentially, BS to do. It was more limited. It had its own, I think, Halo flavor. It was fun. It rarely felt repetitious. So I think that it's, I think that the series' first foray into open world was a beautiful balance of open world and traditional Halo levels. I think if you took out the open world segments and just looked at the single player regular levels that you would have in regular Halo, I think there were like 9 levels like that. Like Gabrakan, and then where you find the weapon, then going up, and then the tower, the excavation site, the Nexus. Spire doesn't really count. If you keep going, not the Nexus is later on, right? You have to do the command spire, the repository, the road, right? Then the final boss layer, the sun. So you're looking at close to 9 levels, and the original Halo had 10. It's not that far off of a, Halo campaign. That's just regular levels. But in the middle of that, they created 4 massive open world sections with a lot of cool things to do, like rescuing Marines, killing high value targets, taking down outposts. So I felt that was very well done. I liked the open world areas, like the fact that the grappling hook could be used to explore everything. I really wish that, for instance, Breath of the Wild had a mechanic similar to that. That was really rewarding. I loved the environment. I thought it was very, rich. It was good to see. It gave you that feeling you can go anywhere, drive vehicles. With Marines there, you can rescue Marines. You can take them with you. Take vehicles with you. I think as a start, it was wonderful, very, very good. I think that the gunplay, the enemy variety, all of that was very well balanced. It felt good to play as Master Chief. I felt that the characters, even though I didn't like the story, I felt like, Master Chief was very well done. I loved playing as him. I felt that some of his dialogue was good. I thought the pilot was a little bit annoying, but then he grew on me, and I liked him at the end. I thought he was good. It was a good counterbalance. I liked the sort of the freshness and naivete of the weapon, and then, of course, her evolving into Cortana 2.0, essentially. I don't know what to read of the subtext there, that you get Cortana at the end of her life with all her bags. Basically, he replaced her with her younger daughter or sister. It's just a little bit, but essentially that's what happened. I like the voice acting. I like the character arcs. And again, it was fun playing the campaign, like fun with all the different weapons, variety of gameplay, upgrading. It went into areas almost, again, like that open world, soft role-playing style, the Spartan cores, upgrading various abilities. So I thought that in terms of the gameplay and the characters, I enjoyed that quite a lot. I thought it was very, very successful. I had a ton of fun playing it. I played it on normal, legendary, and lasso. I played it on legendary twice. First with the Scorpion tank gun glitch, and then without it to really truly beat legendary fair and square without the tank gun. I thought the challenge was fair. Definitely not as stupid as Halo 2's legendary difficulty. Probably a bit more in line with Halo 3, maybe a touch easier. But certainly it felt good. It didn't feel too easy or too hard. The legendary difficulty felt in line with the previous game. And at the legendary level, you got to use a lot more of your other abilities. The grappling hook is an old favorite, of course, but on legendary, you have to use everything. You have to use the thrust, the booster, you have to use the drop wall. All of these things had to be used to really maximize your chances of survival. So at the highest difficulty ratings, I did like that fact. And for lasso, it kind of, legendary also goes on, but for lasso, it then forces you to use those other equipment even more and upgrade even more, So I spent over 100 hours on the game. I got every single player achievement. I even got a few multiplayer achievements. Normal, legendary twice, lasso, all these things. So that shows you that the campaign and the gameplay was certainly solid enough and fun enough to keep me playing again and again and again. So that's sort of, high praise for that. Is it perfect? Of course not. One of the things that I wish they did more was, I wish they could have given us a little bit more newer enemies. They only gave us one new enemy, which is just really a version of the bugs from Halo 3, 2 and 3. I think that the open world's beautiful, but again, as others have mentioned, it's very same-like. It's just that one biome, right? The trees, the forests, the open fields. There's no variety. And I think that has to be addressed with downloadable content. You've got to give us water, sand, desert, snow, ice. You've got to give us that. You've done a great job with what you've got. You've given us a very small amount of the map. There needs to be more variety in this open world. Okay, and it's understandable you didn't do that in the beginning, but that has to be rectified, okay, in downloadable content. The world seems a bit dead compared to, say, Horizon Forbidden West and Zero Dawn, for sure, Breath of the Wild, some of the other games. There's no life in this world. Now, that could just be a design decision. That could be a, that's just kind of the way the Halo world is. Even the original Halo, it's not lush forest teeming with life. That's not what Halo is about per se. So I get it. It could just be, again, sort of just their particular flavor of design. But if you're giving us this world and the lore is that there's species on there, and part of the purpose of Zeta is to preserve species, it would be nice to give us a bit more density, right? A bit more life, the trees moving, brush. Again, biome diversity, and then also flora and fauna diversity. I think that's kind of important, okay? So those are areas I wish that there was more improvement at. But within, again, what we're given after all the delays, I think that 343 Studios gave us a much more fun, balanced campaign than we had any right to expect. I was fearful that they would completely drop the ball on that. The indoor on rails part of the campaign, not open world, does suffer from a sameness, unfortunately, right? always the same corridors, the same types of replicating, repeating areas. Again, more diversity is needed for that. Somewhat handcuffed, I know, by the story and what they're trying to do, but there is a repetitiousness to it that's not good, and that you definitely can feel. And these are things, again, that downloadable content in the future, if they can truly put in the work and the effort, can improve that. So there's that, you know, the lack of co-op, while understandable because it introduces ridiculous game balancing issues. Because remember that you're now able to drive weapons, you're able to drive vehicles and pick up Marines. And 4 of those could destroy the game balance. You know, you would probably have to have 20 elites or 20 brutes, a dozen hunters to make it a fair fight. It might be too overwhelming. There's a reason that Breath of the Wild is not multiplayer. There's a reason why Assassin's Creed is not multiplayer. There's a reason why Far Cry and Horizon Zero Dawn and now Forbidden West are single player, because these open world settings kind of demand single player to maintain game balance, or it becomes just unavoidably sloppy. I don't really know how they're going to address that if they try to bring back the co-op, okay? The fact that you can't replay at least the single player sections is a travesty. Again, ridiculous. It makes getting collectibles, it makes experimenting with different ways of fighting very difficult. You can't go back. That's got to be corrected, okay? It should have been a day 1 patch. It's so stupid you don't have that. That you have to start a campaign again and again just to play it. That's so easy to fix, and it's such an unfathomable decision to make, that they need to fix that, you know? And of course, that's my feeling again for the campaign. Co-op, more biome diversity, flora, fauna diversity, more level diversity, and the ability to restart levels. Those are critical. And I hope it doesn't take you 10 years to do that. And you should be doing that within the next 1 or 2 years. So that's that. I don't have anything to say about Forge or multiplayer much, because I don't play multiplayer. I don't play Forge. Those are more important for the greater Halo community. A lot of issues of game balance, game fairness, progression system. It's like Halo is almost like stuck in the past, where newer multiplayer first-person shooters like Call of Duty and others have kind of moved forward with things. I think that the free-to-play model with their microtransactions is disgusting, but I'm a grown man, an adult, and maybe just my background, I'm not like a little kid or something like that. I could care less about stupid cosmetic things, and none of that moves me at all. So I'm completely immune to their carrot, addictive nonsense stuff. I think it is disgusting. I don't like it. I don't think that free-to-play is very good, and you shouldn't take cell phone roulette, slot machine, essentially addiction, algorithms on cell phones to consoles. I'm very much against that. So I think, again, it is disgusting, manipulative, and I don't like that. And so all I can say is, from what I understand, you just have to have more content, more game balance, better progression. If people want to waste their entire lives trying to get cat ears and different types of armor upgrades, they should be able to earn it, and don't make it so that you're forced to microtransact and buy it. So those things, of course, should be cleaned up. But I bought Halo Infinite for their campaign experience. And I've always enjoyed the Halo series for the campaign. And my feeling is that the campaign, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it actually a solid 7. While the story is down in the 2 to 3 range, I still found their characters to be endearing. and enduring, and the character arcs to be good. I liked them. I found that I felt that they were charismatic. It's important to like the people you're playing. I thought the voice acting was very good, of course, tremendous. And I thought that the gameplay, especially incorporating open world for the first time, was done actually quite well. And while there are definitely, I also felt like we got a bit more than the normal campaign, right? Like the normal campaign, we got that. And then we got these nice, huge areas of open world I really appreciated. Unfortunately, the normal corridor portion of Infinite is not as good, of course, as 1 to 3, because they just didn't spend the time making it more diverse. But then you gave us the open world part that no other Halo game before it had. That was done very well. Different characters, enemies, the high value targets added a lot of variety and spice to things. Rescuing Marines was really good. So I enjoyed all of that. So I think that the gameplay and the characters and the voice acting, that really saved, I think, the campaign for me. And in the end, I did give it, I do feel like it was a good, enjoyable experience, enough for me to finish it multiple times and put in about 100 hours in it, which I would never do for a game that I didn't really genuinely enjoy playing. But having said that, once I've done that and gotten all those achievements, I no longer play it. I'm not playing now. My Xbox Series X is disconnected. I'm about to turn my attention to Horizon Forbidden West on the PS5. And so it needs more content. That's what it needs. You have to fulfill your promise of delivering, actual significant, worthwhile content over the next decade, right? But decent start if you can just build on that. So that's my review of Halo Infinite in a nutshell. Ups and downs, but overall, again, solid. So thanks for sticking with me. I haven't been on YouTube for 6 to 7 months. I'm just sort of relaxing here at night. So I hope you kind of enjoyed somewhat with me my thoughts on not only the physical media of the console, the controllers, and the hard drive, and me tangentially talking about my opinion on what Microsoft is doing with the Series X and some of the weaknesses of the operating system and some of the frustrations. But also Halo Infinite, which is that's the game that I spent all this money on in the first place. Like I said, I wasn't even gonna buy a Series X, but I got carried away by the romanticism and the nostalgia of this franchise that changed so many things back when it released back in 2001. I mean, I remember that very well. 2001, I just graduated medical school, starting my internship, and that was when I first played Halo, and all through my medical career, I was playing it. So there's a lot of nostalgia. Over 21 years ago, 20 plus years. So that I bought all that stuff to enjoy it, and I did enjoy it. I don't regret that. I did enjoy it quite a bit. So hopefully they will redeem themselves. I think 343 has had kind of an up and down history with this franchise that they've inherited from Bungie. So I am willing to give them a chance. I think they have actually somewhat redeemed themselves from the disaster of Halo 5. Even though much of Halo Infinite was essentially a big fat apology and retcon and resoft reboot, they did okay by me. So I'm willing to give them a chance, benefit of the doubt moving forward to see what they have for us on DLC. So again, hopefully that you enjoyed all of that, both the review of the physical content and then also my thoughts on the game, which, I really waited more than a decade for because Halo 5 was so horrible. I couldn't even get into that. So for the first real maybe Halo game in over a decade, it was very, very good. I'm planning on doing a few more reviews finally on statues from all different types, customs and licensed pieces, Predator pieces. So hope you tune in for that. I'm gonna upload some of this stuff. And until then, do take care.